Hello and welcome to the Flicks Forum podcast with Jesse Heater and MJ, where each week we go back and look at a Netflix original film in the order of release. This week we are checking out Netflix's 43rd film, the 2017 romantic comedy The Incredible Jessica James. It's directed by James C. Strouse. It stars Jessica Williams, Chris O'Dowd, Noel Wells, Lakeith Stanfield, Megan Ketch and Zabryna Guevara. Hello.
G'day, mate.
Good evening. Heath, Jesse, good evening.
It is good to be here.
It's very good to be here. This is one of the later podcasts we've done. We do tend to change up our podcasting time from time to time. It is quite late.
A bit later in the night.
It's almost my bedtime, but that's all right. I'll push on through.
Very close.
Me too.
So we like to kick off our show with a Fast Flicks, where we do a quick summary of the film. Heater, go today.
All right. Still struggling after a breakup, an aspiring playwright meets and forms an unlikely connection with a divorced man who is going through a similar struggle with his ex.
Yeah, that's the story.
That's it.
MJ.
Struggling to come to terms with a recent breakup, our title character stumbles across various situations and people that help her to relook at the way she's approaching her life.
Nice. And I have said a young, creative girl wants to make it big in the theatre world, but must first come to terms with who she is.
Yep, I like that.
Yep.
All right, so we like to have a look at anything that we've found out about this film. I struggled this week.
Yeah.
Big struggle to find much about this
Wasn't
film
much online.
MJ, did you find something?
A few bits and pieces. I was looking at Jim Strouse, who's the director. I wasn't familiar with him by name. This is the fourth feature that he's directed, so starting from 2007, so he does tend to space out his work, but he also had 9 writing credits from 2005 onwards, but including a movie that I've given 5 stars to.
Yeah, I saw this and I was like, MJ's recommended this to us.
Which I didn't know he'd written it, but he wrote The Hollers, which is an excellent film. You think
that was not where I was going.
I'll get to that. A movie, The Hollers, which was a John Krasinski directed film, which is I rarely give a 5-star rating to a film, but this is one I gave 5 stars. So I didn't realise Jim Strouse had written that. What he also wrote was a sequence from New York, I Love You, which I have recommended to both.
That's where I was going, yeah.
And that's so he's done some pretty cool stuff and stuff that's right up my alley. That's from a writing perspective. Obviously, he wrote and directed this one.
So so it's his fourth feature. He's done in 2007. Grace Is Gone. He did The Winning Season in 2009, and then People, Places, Things in 2015. And he has a TV movie coming with Jessica Williams.
So he wrote this script with Jessica Williams in mind. And halfway through writing, he met up with her, and that kind of helped.
That was because she was in that People, Places, Things film that he did. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So he obviously has a massive liking for her work.
Yeah, I think obviously he sees her as a good comedic presence and the energy that she brings on screen, and he obviously knows how to write a script for her. So I found that quite interesting. I found him quite interesting. I'm going to keep a real close eye on him and his work going forward as well, and maybe check out some of the other films that he's done.
Interesting.
Critical consensus for this one was pretty positive.
Pretty positive.
It was very positive.
88% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Was it really?
88 on 57 reviews, so it's not like it was only like 10 or something.
That's not bad for Rotten Tomatoes.
That's very positive for a lot of reviews.
57 reviews for Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
That's significant for that.
And the audience sat on 66% on 776.
Taken 66.
Which is pretty similar to IMDb and Letterboxd, which was 6.5 out of 10 and then 3.2 out of 5. So, yeah, kind of sitting around that 6.5 mark out of 10.
And enough. You know what? More people on Letterboxd have rated this than IMDb.
I was about to check that because I'm like, surely I've written that down wrong. There was more ratings on Letterboxd.
I was punching stuff into my calculator and was getting really excited when I thought it was going to beat it. And it just tipped over. So
it's a bit over 5,000 on each one.
So I often think of Letterboxd as a little bit more of a filmy kind of audience, whereas IMDb is really generic. Everyone who consumes movies in any way is familiar with IMDb. Yeah. They don't necessarily log in and rate their films on it. But
Letterboxd
Letterboxd,
TV as well as IMDb as well, so it's
True.
more familiar for everyone because they can look at movies and TV.
very true. Letterboxd, I think you need to go out of your way to really be a somewhat of an avid film fan to get involved with.
Which we all are.
So, which
We're
makes
all
me
on
think
Letterboxd.
and the fact that there's 56 reviews on Rotten Tomatoes makes me think this is more of a film for a film audience, which doesn't necessarily think that on the surface of the film, but obviously they all got behind it.
Yeah, I agree with the Letterboxd thing, and then the other day I had an experience where it like totally flipped me, because usually it's like, yeah, it's on par with what you think, critics and film lovers would sort of like together. And my wife has this rule where if it's anything under 3, she won't watch it off Letterboxd.
Yeah, you have told me that.
Yeah, so Dog's Purpose we watched the other night,
Okay.
and it was like 3 point something or other, and wow,
It's pretty new though, isn't it?
so there's a new sequel that's coming out, but it's like 2017 or something, so it's a couple of years old, and I couldn't believe
it was
it.
bad.
We're
saying it was bad.
It wasn't very good. So yeah, but I do agree in general. But that just, I was like, thinking of that this week, it really did.
You got it wrong, movie audience.
I've had a few movies like that where they've had a pretty high score.
That happens.
Yeah,
It happens, yeah.
So this one had a bit of a cinema release before it hit Netflix. So it debuted at
I met
Sundance
Sundance, yeah.
in January 2017,
Yeah.
and then it debuted didn't debut, but it opened at the San Francisco International Film Festival in April.
Okay.
Then it played at the Sundance London Festival in June.
This is all 2017.
Yeah, 2017. And then in later in June 2017, it played at the BAM Cinema Fest, which I'm not too sure about it. And then it had a cinema release in Portugal in July before opening on Netflix. So
Interesting.
did the rounds this one.
Yeah. So Netflix acquired the rights 4 days before it premiered at Sundance.
Yeah.
The original Sundance.
So yeah, Netflix have obviously
So they had the rights
Yeah.
and then they distributed it.
Yeah.
So they got the rights after it had its
No, before it.
no, but it had the volunteer screening.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a volunteer screening prior to Sundance, which I
Sundance.
get all the people who volunteered to work at Sundance got to see it, and there was a whole heap of buzz off the back of that, and then a little bidding war started, and they acquired it for just over $3 million, I believe. So
Yeah.
that's interesting that I missed out about all the cinema releases.
Yeah. And it was nominated for 3 awards at the 2018 Black Reel Awards as well.
Yeah, saw that too.
Yeah.
So outstanding actress for Jessica Williams, who was beaten by Natalie Paul from Crown Heights. Outstanding independent feature, Jim Strouse, but that was also beaten by Crown Heights.
Okay.
And outstanding breakthrough performance female, which Jessica Williams was beaten by Tiffany Haddish from Girls Trip.
Cool.
Interesting.
I always want to know when they don't win.
Yeah.
I want to know who beat
Who
it.
beat it?
And this was obviously filmed New York City, in and around.
Yes.
It's quite obvious from a lot of the scenes.
Mostly because Jim Strouse is from New York and he's got 2 kids and he's like...
Makes it nice and easy to stay in New York.
It's home. New York's always changing, so he's got this endless evolving set.
All right, well, before we get into the nitty-gritty of the film, what are our early thoughts, MJ? What do you think?
Yeah, I kind of liked diving back into that cliche rom-com structure. And I think mainly just because I hadn't really seen much of this formula recently. Nothing groundbreaking. But I was comfortable with the predictability of the formula. And the main thing I really liked about it was the internal journey that Jessica goes on. And there were a couple of nice little nuggets to take out of things. You know, when you watch a film and you think about your own life, there's enough there that it wasn't just mind-numbing. So I thought it was all right. I quite enjoyed it.
Cool. Peter?
I didn't really like it too much. I struggled getting into it. One of the reasons I didn't like it, I really didn't like the character of Jessica. She annoyed me, and just not liking her I didn't really get into the film. And I mean, in general, I'm not really a rom-com guy, but doing this, I'd try to go in with an open mind. But just I couldn't really connect and like Jessica, and it made me struggle throughout enjoying the film.
Yeah, it definitely I took my time getting to like her. I don't think you're supposed to like her at the start.
Yeah.
Like that first scene with her on that date.
Yeah.
Like she's super dislikable.
Yeah.
Is that word dislikable? But
Yeah, and even a lot of the way like she was treating the one kid
Yeah.
who she was trying to get on the thing.
For sure.
We'll talk about later in scenes, but yeah, just a lot of that stuff. I was just, I don't like you. I'm not rooting for you to be happy or succeed. So yeah, that really hampered my ability to get in and actually like the film. Yeah, I wasn't that big a fan of it.
Yeah, so I'm similar to Heath. So I was doing a bit of reading on this, and they referred to this as a hangout film where you get to know Jessica and not worry about what's going on around her. So and they compared it to like Tarantino sort of films where it's more about you hang out with these characters and enjoy what the characters are up to. But I wasn't a massive fan like Hida because I couldn't quite believe the overconfidence of her, and I had this feeling like they wanted or needed us to believe that she was warm and fuzzy on the inside, but she had this exterior that just wasn't matching what was going on, and I just couldn't deal with that.
Yeah, I found her really jarring, but to be honest...
I guess we can kick into Jessica.
Yeah, let's do it. So I really did dislike her at the beginning, and I can't see a world where we were supposed to like her on that first date.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
She was really pretentious.
She was.
I was like, "Who is this? Like, you're not the title character, are you?"
She was a bitch. Like, just plain and simple. I thought she was a bitch.
But I actually think that she had a really good character arc. Her best discovery being that you don't need to change who you are just because on the surface things aren't working. So I actually don't think she necessarily changed her beliefs and things that drove her, but she changed the way that she let them get to her. If you love something and if you're passionate about something, then that's cool. If you don't think it's bringing you joy, then doesn't mean it's not working, because you just got to look and look at it differently. I think the best part of that was when she goes to her sister's bridal shower or baby shower.
Yeah.
And I love the symbolism of this jumpsuit, right? Where she's like, I love this jumpsuit. And she gets in there and everyone's like, why? Or she's like, why are you wearing that jumpsuit? It looks ridiculous. And then at the end, she's wearing the jumpsuit and the little girl's just like, hey, that's a cool jumpsuit. Whereas all these things that Jessica had in her head, she's like, oh, this isn't working. It was working, but she was looking at it the wrong way. She was thinking like, I want to get into theatre. It's like, well, you are, you're teaching these kids, and that's as fulfilling as anything you're going to do.
Yeah.
So I just liked that ability for her to learn about herself without having to change herself, but, feel freedom in the decisions that she's making are the right decisions anyway. That was really cool, and that was something that you don't normally see in a film, and I enjoyed that. So, and it was a character journey in the end.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying about her being jarring and just being a real pain, but I think, she does get better at that, but without any drastic changes, and that's kind of cool.
Yeah, should definitely a strong, independent type character, which obviously we don't see a lot of on the screen, I guess, like that, as a main role, main female black protagonist who is happy, not happy, but does things how she wants to do them, I guess.
She's got a stage.
Confident, she's confident and confident in what she's doing,
And maybe that's just because I haven't seen enough films that are like that, and maybe that's why I just couldn't connect with it, because I'm not.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say like why you where the arrogance comes from, and I don't quite understand that, because that's fair. Like I reckon if you watch this again, and you can understand where she's, you understand more about her and you understand where she ends up, you'd probably watch it again a little bit differently, because you would sort of understand her. Not saying that you probably want to chuck it on again.
Yeah, probably not something I'm going to watch again. I see what you're saying, definitely.
I do think that would probably help, because she just comes on screen, and she just like bang in your face. Here I am.
I didn't hate this film. Like, I didn't hate the film at all. Just that character. I don't know. I just couldn't get her.
Yeah. No, it definitely took me a while, and I still didn't particularly like her that much. But I did. The first date and the first scene on that date with that guy from Tinder, juxtaposed with her first date with Boone, where she's not necessarily having a great time. She doesn't really want to be there.
But she doesn't care. It's more just kind of chatting.
And she's smiling, and they talk about all that
she's
honesty.
Entertaining him. Like, I get, she's willing to listen to him talk as well, whereas the other one, like, she wasn't. It was just about, this is my agenda of what's happening tonight. Whereas with Boone, it was more like, we're just going to chat.
She seemed comfortable, and I liked that setting up. Almost, the thing. It was a classic, meet cute, and this film has a lot of really structured rom-com elements to it. And
what did you think of Boone?
I thought it was a really great role for.
I like Boone. Yeah. He's a pretty funny guy. His character was very funny. I mean, especially contrast to me not liking Jessica, I really enjoyed when he was on screen, and I enjoyed watching him.
He does awkward charming really well.
Really well, yeah.
So this was a lot more like his role in Bridesmaids, a lot less like his role in Mascots that we saw on Netflix recently.
He was that comedic relief, but I found him a little hit and miss as well, and I don't know, he looked a little bit too old for her.
He looked quite old.
They definitely didn't seem like a right match.
He looked quite old, but I thought it was funny. I enjoyed every time he was on screen.
It was really clever when they introduce him. The very first time you see him is when she says, like, there's nothing worse than watching a man eat, and then it just cuts to him just like... He's just eating it. It was just the perfect, like, here's this guy who's a bit of a loser, who's going to be funny, and it just set him up perfectly. I really liked it. I liked the fact that he was quite strong-willed, and even though he seemed a little bit weak and pathetic at times, he did want to protect himself as much as possible.
Yep.
Like, that ability for him to be like, no, let's take this slow, because he knows he's going to hurt himself, but he's still too weak to just be like, bugger it, let's go upstairs.
Yeah.
Like, there was still something about him that you believed he was, he wasn't just this character thrown into Jessica's life for Jessica's sake.
Yeah.
He had his own life.
It wasn't just a complete, like, a pushover kind of thing, just to be there to whatever she wanted. He was independent as well. He had his own thing going on. Obviously, he had his own struggles to work with, and he was always, willing to put that first as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. I was disappointed with the role of Damon, because I love Lakeith Stanfield, and I don't know.
I didn't even write him down. He was that insignificant.
I wrote out nothing role. And, and that, I was like...
I was expecting
when he's billed as like... I'm like, oh, sweet, he's in this film, and then it's like, oh...
The only time you see him is when he's a figment of Jessica's imagination. So that's why I was like, I don't know this character at all.
Except the start.
Except the first. Yeah, exactly. I said the first he wasn't a figment.
No, he was real.
He was real at the end too when he rocked
he was. He was dead. Like, that's all fine. But I wasn't expecting that.
Him and her friend Tasha, I thought they were both...
So Tasha was the classic cliche, I don't have a story arc at all about myself, but I'm here to serve yours.
Yeah, absolutely.
My favourite character... Oh, sorry, did you want to talk about...
No, she was fine. She was what you would expect in a rom-com.
Yeah.
My favourite character was that Chandra.
Chandra.
The way I read Jessica, I thought that Chandra was the only character that really allowed her for the growth by her not going to that excursion. To me, that was the turning point. And I just thought she did that really well. And then you get to see her go to the house to apologise to her. And I just thought that was where that change happened. And I really liked it.
Definitely. Really clear.
Yeah.
I found the relationship between both of them a little bit awkward and somewhat misplaced. Like, it didn't work. But I think the idea was that Jess's own intensity and lack of direction was kind of being forced upon Chandra?
Yeah.
Chandra?
Yeah.
Chandra? Maybe?
You got the idea that Jess, like, saw herself in Chandra.
Yeah.
But
trying to get her along to do the things with her, and she didn't necessarily want to do them.
And she sort of admits that when she goes to apologise and says, look, the same thing happened to my family. I had to pick which parent I wanted to be with, blah, blah, blah. So.
Yeah. To your point, I think she was an important device for Jess to invoke change in the way she acts. Not the way she thinks, because the way she thinks was probably the main thing that I liked about Jess is the way she thinks didn't change.
No.
But the way she acted and the way she perceived things changed. But the whole relationship still felt a little unrealistic and a little bit weird.
Yeah, I thought it was weird.
But you're right, I like
the
character.
interactions was weird.
Yeah. Any other characters? No?
Nah.
There wasn't much else.
Any other actors that we could have seen okay for this role? I don't know if you could recast this. It's a different sort of film.
Well, that's the thing. Here's a film that was written for Jessica Williams, right?
Yeah.
Chris O'Dowd
was perfect, I think,
agree,
for that kind of character.
It fit perfectly.
Exactly who
and
I think.
Didn't
no
really
one else
matter
really...
anyone else.
No one else really...
It didn't matter who else was in the movie. It was only those two.
All right. What are some scenes that stood out? Hater, go.
I didn't have too many, but one of the funny ones I thought when Boone's on the phone with Jessica and he's working at the front of his ex's house and he falls over the rubbish bins. He says on the phone, I did some trash cans fall over at your end. Very funny. I really enjoyed that.
Specific.
Yeah.
What's that sound?
Some trash cans falling over. I liked when Jessica kept having the daydreams about Damien and he kept dying. They were funny, especially when the piano fell on him. I think I burst out laughing when the piano fell on him.
And rash.
Yeah, that's the only standout I've got are the dream sequences.
Yeah, the dreams were really funny. And I actually really did enjoy the bits of scream metal playing at the baby shower. Just they had those little snippets in the screamo started coming on. I'm like, yeah, that's funny. I like that. Yeah, that was all I had though, yeah.
I liked the scene as well with Chris O'Dowd's character where he was like talking to his ex-wife's partner. And just pretty much turns around and goes, I don't care, and then walked off. That wasn't bad.
That was kind of annoying because that was showing there is a world outside of Jessica. That's the only little bit. Because you're like, oh, what's going to happen here? Are they going to try and reconcile? And you can understand that situation because the bloke who comes out, he's been pretty decent about everything, right?
Yeah,
like
he's been really nice about it.
Yeah, he handled it really well. And then you didn't expect, Boone to tell him to F off or whatever. Which was still kind of cool as well because Boone is battling with this as well.
Exactly,
so, You're right, that was a good scene. I have quite a few. In general, I liked the way that she put her rejection letters on the wall. When I saw that straight away, I was like, ooh, okay, you're winning me over here. I like your drive. I like your passion. I like your persistence. I did like when she was on the phone to her best friend and she's like, are you masturbating? Because the whole time I'm like, I think that girl's masturbating. That's what I was thinking. I'm like, I think she's masturbating while she's on the phone. And then when she just says, next time I call you and you're doing that, just don't answer. And then she's just kind of like, oh, okay.
But I thought that was just a logical thing to do, just to not answer the phone.
I better answer the phone. I won't stop what I'm doing.
I didn't like the... No, it's not that I didn't like that scene. I didn't like the split screen whenever they had a phone conversation.
Okay.
That just... I don't know. You don't need to see both people talking and reacting at the same time.
Sure. But one of them's masturbating though.
For that one scene, but then it happened whenever she was on the phone to Boone as well. Just visually was... didn't like it.
I like the ice skating or the skating scene after that mess in Ohio with her family. And in fact, I kind of just liked every time that we saw Jess and Boone together because she just seemed happier with him than other parts of her life. But during that scene specifically, she says to Boone, talking about theatre, saying, I don't know if it loves me back because how much you must love theatre. And she goes, I don't know if it loves me back, and that scares the shit out of me. And I really like that idea that someone who's so passionate about something starts to doubt themselves because they're like, I give everything to this, but what's it giving me back? And that goes to the whole point where she didn't realise how much she was getting back from theatre by doing what she was doing, and then obviously things turned around for her. But really, really poignant line for me. So I definitely thought that was my favourite part of the film.
Yep.
And the final thing that I like, which I mentioned before, is about her, just the whole symbolism of her wearing that jumpsuit. And I like the fact that she was wearing it at the end. She was being herself all along, and she never actually thought she was fitting in, but she was. Just like the fact that she was actually being successful all along, but never got the recognition for it. So that one really stuck with me as well.
Cool. Nice. Did you need that TED Talk lady to... Did you watch that TED Talk?
I didn't.
No. I didn't.
I did did Google that lady though, because she's real.
I kind of hope she was.
Yeah.
All right. What didn't we like, Peter?
We've spoken a bit about before the opening bar scene. There was a bit of an awkward and weird start to get to know the character, and that kind of that didn't start off the movie well for me. That opening scene, I just didn't like that whole thing.
The two lines from that scene that I didn't like were she said, "I'd rather have my period for 1,000 years," or the guy that she was saying should have told her to take her panties off and smell them.
Yeah, I'd rather have my period for 1,000 years is a little bit funny.
Yeah, okay.
It wasn't a good scene. I didn't like when Jessica's talking to Chandra's mum and asking, why she can't go on the trip with her and why does she have to go with her dad, and the whole time that conversation, I'm just thinking in my head going like, where are your boundaries? Like, mind your own damn business. This is, kind of a family thing. You're going to spend time with the dad and she was kind of pushing it, going, no, she shouldn't spend time with the dad. Come with me. I'm just thinking like, no, you got to have some boundaries here. Like, just leave her to be with her family. And then later on when it was kind of like, Chandra might go with her, and then she's like, oh, she might go to Six Flags because the rest of her family's going, and she just cracks the shits with her, like for not going with her. I'm like, you're just being a bitch here to her. Like, she wants to go with her family to Six Flags instead of going with you. Like, that's okay. I just didn't like that whole interaction with her, and
I didn't like that she was taking out on a kid, but then I did like the follow up where she went and apologized.
It was good follow up, but just at the time I just remember just thinking, just no, like you can't be saying this to her. This is really bad.
Yep.
I was exactly the same with that.
I wasn't a massive fan of the follow on from that opening bar scene where you just see her dancing through the flat and on the rooftop.
The opening credits scene.
I don't know. It was weird.
They hired a choreographer for that.
I didn't like her just throwing the guy's laundry out. Yeah. Again, that goes to a bit of, you think you're too good, just throwing it out. I'm like, come on, that's just unnecessary.
Yeah, I didn't bother. I like when she like stopped and ate a sandwich in the middle of it. Was it a sandwich or something?
Peanut butter and jelly, wasn't it? She had
Yeah.
it sitting on the camera, looked at it, and then you see her scoff in her face. Like I said, like Boone, I didn't mind him. Actually, I should have put these in the things I liked. There were 2 jokes that he made that I liked. I liked that he joked about Hamilton being the only thing he knew about theatre. I thought that was funny. I had a bit of a giggle at that. And then like he randomly, just out of nowhere, goes, "Oh yeah, Jessica, I'm good at cunnilingus."
Yeah,
really weirded out there.
So out there.
it kind of goes back to that opening bar scene where she
Yeah.
says to the guy, like, "You should have just made a move on me straight away."
Yeah.
Well, at least she was telling the truth because
yeah.
she kind of is okay with that.
I thought that whenever she smelled the Vicks vapor rub to remind her of Damon, I was like, "Oh, that's."
Who smells like that? Like,
It must be like
I know.
just sick all the time. I don't know. It was weird. And the last thing that I wasn't a massive fan of was Jessica brought her friend Tasha to the class for that improv game.
Ah, cool.
It just went way too long.
the improv.
Yeah,
The improv.
the improv. It was. She's like, "Oh, I brought my friend along for an improv game." I'm just sitting there going, "Yeah, okay." The kids don't really care.
Yeah, they went around for a
Yeah.
bit too long with their zombie kind of thing.
Yeah.
There's a thing similar to that when they had the scene in the theater where the yes and game.
Yeah.
That was like fine, but it had absolutely nothing to do with anything else. And then the scene ended, and then there was no other relevance to it.
Yeah.
So that was another thing. I was like, why is this scene in here? Are you just telling me?
Are they just trying to include the friend more?
No,
Give
yeah,
her some
I
more
feel like it was
screen
just making sure you know that she's a teacher.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah. I also had that thing with Chandra, which you spoke about. I didn't like in general her use of the word dope.
But she's dope. She knows she's dope.
I feel like in the last 20 minutes she said it like 6 times. Especially the worst one was when Boone said, "I really like you," and she goes, "Yeah, Boone, of course you do. I'm freaking dope." Like,
Yeah,
ugh.
it wasn't great.
It wasn't great. And that was basically I didn't like or dislike. I just thought it was a little bit weird that Chandra was on the plane at the end. Like,
That was a bit of a weird. Those are
was
kind
a
of
weird
weird
ending.
questions. So Boone wasn't on the plane,
No,
was he?
no.
He just bought the 3 of them round trip tickets to London and didn't go himself.
with his frequent flyer points.
That's what I thought happened. That's kind of weird.
I think you're supposed to think that he's there because they got that spare
Yeah.
seat in the middle,
Yeah.
and then Chandra
You know,
jumps
and
on
it's
there. I'm like, huh?
Oh no, Boone's just such a nice guy. He did this for them.
Yeah, why are you taking a child? Like,
Who's not your own?
yeah, like it's a writer's weekend's one thing. But,
Yeah.
you know, where were they going?
Why's your best friend going? Why would a Boone go?
Yeah,
Like, it's his frequent flyer miles. That was a bit weird.
I don't know. Yeah. All right. Well, what was the film trying to say? What were some themes, some ideas, messages?
Well, I'm really big on this whole growth and self-discovery thing, and I've been harping on about that quite a bit. But I like the fact, as I said, it's not necessarily as we know it. Like, there's growth and discovery in almost every film, and every character arc has it. But she didn't have to change what she was doing. She just had to change how she saw herself and thought about herself. And that's a really cool message. I like, if you're stuck in a rut and you're like, man, why am I doing this? Why am I doing that? It's like, well, maybe not what you're doing maybe what you're doing isn't the problem.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the way you're thinking about
Yeah.
what you're getting out of it.
Yeah.
Really cool message.
Yeah, I think
so.
I sort of had to, like, being complicated is okay. It didn't matter that she had all these, insecurities as well, obviously. And Boone, makes a comment to her that you're good at hiding it, but that's fine. Like, as long as she works out how to deal with those things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like that. It was sort of like a colorblind film too. Like, it was a very mixed cast.
Very
and
true.
It didn't matter one little bit.
Nah,
at all.
very true.
Yeah, which was good. It, like, you have white people, you have black people. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
It was just nice to not have to worry about. I mean, there's scenes where they're walking through her area where she lives and they make some sort of comments, but other than that, it didn't really.
That's a really good point. I like that. And hopefully we get to see a lot more of that.
Yeah, hopefully.
There was good. A bit about the commitment too and being honest.
Yep.
They spoke about honesty quite a
was-
lot.
yeah.
That was really important to both of them.
Yeah.
And that was what stood them apart when they first had that conversation. That's when things opened up. When he's like, "Well, I love being honest," and she's like, "All right, good, let's be honest."
Yeah.
Done. And then all of a sudden they clicked.
Yeah. Living life too. She was always telling the kids to be themselves, keeping their minds open. And she sort of did this through theatre. Like, it's not a dead art form. It, like, transforms life. So she's trying to, while she transformed her, she was trying to transform these ones of these kids as well.
Yeah. Her nose ring bothered me. Did it bother anyone else? I don't like that hook nose ring.
It didn't bother me.
It's the first note I wrote down.
Yeah.
It was like nose ring.
Like a nose ring.
Really going to bother me.
Yeah, it didn't bother me too much, I guess.
Last thing I had too was sort of questioning the system too. She made a few comments throughout the film, like, she said marriage is an outdated construct, and then she made that picture book at the baby shower, which was the ABCs of
talking to the lady at the baby shower who just had no idea what she was talking about.
Just not conforming.
Yeah.
It was quite progressive. She was quite progressive. And you know what?
Yeah.
I only noted that sort of halfway through the film and onwards, how progressive she was and how strong she was in those beliefs.
Yeah.
I think there was an element of moving on, because that was probably the initial part of the film, is she wanted to get over her ex-boyfriend.
And the same for...
same for Chris O'Dowd.
Same for Chris O'Dowd's character too, yeah.
So they use each other as the wrong word, but they relied on each other to help them get through that. And then eventually, as a viewer, you kind of forget that's what they're doing.
And they do that through that social media following quite well. It's like, let's reverse the roles and yeah.
The only other thing that it does touch on is the whole idea of dysfunctional families and family hardships. Really blood in that scene where she's talking about visualizing sitting in the backseat of your car.
Getting the puppy dog that you want.
Exactly. And she's talking about her family, but then the kids are relating it to their own family. And this is a really big, probably relatable theme for so many people, and I like the fact they touched on it the way they did. They didn't give it a heap of oxygen, but
I thought it was even good. Like, it was a scene I didn't like, but when she's talking to Chandra's mum, and her mum's telling about how they've gone through all these divorce lawyers and how much time and energy it's spent, and it's finally done, and making it, showing how it was such a big ordeal as well.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't necessarily understand what everyone else is going through to get where they are. More to it than just a rom-com.
Definitely. So, what did we take away from the film? It was all right.
I like the message and the slight subtlety in it. I think that, you have to think a little bit about the message. I think the comedy and romance isn't all that compelling, but the cliche framework helped the film work. That you could just rely on these cues that are going to happen and go, okay, this is the meet cute. Okay, this is where they have their fight. It kind of helped it.
Pretty
just
standard
move it along.
Of what was happening,
But the message for me, I really liked the message.
Yeah. So we like to work out if we've jumped on IMDb to check out any actors or actresses or look anything up. Did anyone jump on board this film?
I jumped on for Damon, the ex, Lakeith Stanfield.
Yeah.
Who, from what you said before, I feel like I should know more of.
Sandcastle?
Hey? He was in War Machine. Which I didn't even realise.
Last time.
Was he Oscar nominated last year?
Was he?
He was in Get Out.
He was in
Get Out. He's in Sorry to Bother You, though.
Okay, yeah. Well, the one because I was watching and I'm like, I know you. Like, who the hell are you? Yeah, he's from Get Out.
Yeah.
And then I was looking at IMDb and I'm like, oh, you're in War Machine. I didn't even notice him in War Machine. But yeah, the one I saw, I was like...
black guy that we spoke heaps about.
Did we? Okay.
We did speak about him a lot.
Well, then at the time I didn't remember when I was watching.
At the time, he was my favourite. I spoke about him being my favourite character.
He was the one that shot the rocket and then was like crying.
Ah, yeah, that guy.
He was the
that same guy?
Yeah.
There we go.
He was questioning why we're here.
Yeah. Okay.
Asking them why we're here.
Well, I'm looking at him here going, you're the guy from Get Out. Yeah. I didn't remember it from War Machine.
He's a great actor.
He's good.
I didn't go on IMDb, but I went on Google to find out how tall Jessica Williams was. And she's 183 centimetres, so that's 6 foot, I think.
Yep.
And I think she references her height like 3 times after I'd already Googled it. And I was like, I didn't have to. But yeah, she just seemed really tall.
I didn't jump on, but I did think Chris O'Dowd was much better in this than Mascots. That's all I had to say.
That was a crappy role.
Yes, he was.
In Mascots.
It's a crappy movie.
But that was such a bad role for him.
It was just such a bad movie.
Because do you remember Bridesmaids?
Every single role in that movie was bad.
In Bridesmaids, Chris O'Dowd is very similar to role to this. And... He gets it right, all right? So let's just keep giving him those shots.
You watch the IT Crowd?
I've only seen clips from it.
He's great in the IT Crowd. He's fantastic.
All right. Do we have any questions from the film?
I thought of one just as we were talking.
Yeah.
If you had kids, would you like them to go to Jess's drama class?
Well, it was sort of like a community drama, so it wasn't like a related to a school or anything.
No, I know, but
I'm just trying to put context behind it, like.
They're not just going to draw that teacher for school. It's a choice to send them there.
If your kid's into theatre, then or are you saying based on
based on her? Would you want her teaching your kids?
Yeah, I don't care.
Yeah, I'd be fine with it.
Cool, I agree.
I love she's got to work in the children's chapter. I got a question. What do you think her plays were actually about? Because we never found out what
true.
sort of plays that she was writing. Like, what were they? Yeah, I don't know. I just would have liked to have had a little bit of context to what, because they're meant to be,
I get the feeling they'd almost be like modern retellings of old
Shakespeare or something.
Not Shakespeare necessarily, but they'd have real progressive thinking within them. And
real progressive.
probably a little bit of a
things.
feminist kind of tinge to it.
Definitely get that kind of feeling.
Yeah.
But yeah, he smashed through reading them, didn't he?
Sure did. Other thing I was thinking, there were a couple of scenes throughout where it was just Jessica in these random situations with no dialogue, and the one that stood out to me was when she gets on the train and there's like the guy who's like taking up the seats, and she's like looks at him like in a way like as in move.
Yeah.
I just couldn't work out how they fit. Like, was it trying to show that she doesn't care what people think about her and she's just willing to do whatever she wants? Or
I think there's an element of that, but there's also an element of
I think like she's happy just to speak up.
Yeah,
something
because he was just spread his
he
legs.
just spread his leg. Where some people might just go find another seat or just stand. Yeah. She was happy to speak up and be like, no, buddy, that's not on.
Yeah,
move.
Cool.
I think it was more that. But again, she does seem jarring, and when you haven't met her, you're like, who is this?
I was just like, because she's so confrontational to everyone else and verbal about it. It was just these scenes where she wasn't. And I was like,
I think that's just her, the way she does everything.
Yeah,
she doesn't have to be verbal everything, but she's always going to be outspoken.
All right, we ready to wrap this up?
Yeah, award-winning food photographer. Is that a thing? Like, is that a real thing?
That's just a joke about Instagram.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, were they just taking
a pretty cool job if that was your job? But
award-winning food photographer.
You get to eat the food as well.
Yeah,
hope so.
Nah, just take a photo of it and leave it.
I can't imagine there's much money in that, surely.
Yeah,
it depends if you're sponsored on Instagram, isn't it?
Yeah, people will be like, "Hey, come to my restaurant."
Yeah,
I'll pay you.
So we like to give a rating for the films that we've watched. We give it a rating out of 5, and then we add it all up to give it an overall average for the Flicks Forum podcast. Heater, give us your thoughts.
So yeah, I struggled with this movie a bit. It's not the kind of film I normally watch, but I tried to go in with an open mind. However, the awkward opening scene and then the fact that I didn't really like the main character, I just struggled to get into it. I liked Chris O'Dowd, but aside from that, I just didn't think the movie was that good. I gave it a 2.
Cool. MJ?
Yeah, I found it a surprisingly easy film to watch. Jessica, for me, went from jarring to palatable to commendable, which isn't a bad effort for a character to do in 85 minutes. It clearly didn't blow my socks off, but I enjoyed it enough, I guess. 3 stars.
Nice. So I didn't hate the film, but I didn't love it. I couldn't quite get into it, and I think if I connected more with Jessica, I may have taken more away from it. And I finished it not quite knowing too much more about her than when the film started. Like, realistically, as I didn't know anything new really about her. So I'm giving it a 2 out of 5 as well. So, Hito, what does that give us as an average out of 5?
So I reckon that works out to a 2.33 out of 5.
2.33?
I worked that out in my head before you press equals that.
I'm doing it in my head too.
No, I know, but I'm getting good at figuring out what our 3 ratings are.
All right, so we are on social media. We have Twitter, we have Facebook, we have Instagram, we are at Flicks Forum, we are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean. Get there, subscribe to us if you can.
You've already found us already. So
True.
Thank you.
So even if you just found it because of this film, try and listen to some of our other episodes too. That would be awesome.
If you want to support us, so subscriptions and ratings mean the world to us.
They do. So we're going to chuck a question up on social media. And the question this week is, what do you prefer, stage shows or musicals? In the theme of Jessica liking theatre.
Interesting.
I think I like musicals more, to be honest.
I'm not a musical kind of guy. I prefer a stage show.
Yeah. I don't necessarily have a preference.
Yeah.
I do love a good musical, but
Yeah.
I do love a good stage show.
If you had to pick one though.
Well, it would depend on the show.
Oh.
Like I loved Les Mis when it came out. What's a show that I've seen?
Harry Potter? Anyone seen Harry Potter?
No, I haven't.
No. That is a great show.
I really want to. It's so expensive.
It is very expensive. Worth seeing though. Worth putting the cash on it. All right, so next week we are watching the 2017 comedy Naked, and it's directed by Michael Tides. Titus. It stars Marlon Wayans, Regina Hall, Jonathan Rod Jackson, Scott Foley, Loretta Devine. Brian McKnight and Dennis Hasbert. So
Brian McKnight, what a singer.
Some classic 90s or early 2000s songs.
I wonder if he's going to act in it or he's
He'd
going
be
to
90s, wouldn't he?
90s, yeah. So that's what we're looking at next week. Been good to catch
Naked.
up, even though
Cool.
it's late.
It's been good.
Let's all go to bed.
Let's all go to bed.
Hell yeah.
All right, thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.
See you, boys.